YouTube crew, how is it going? It's Multiplier here. Episode 2 of In the DAW, this time with Amidy. And I'm looking at his track, Calling Out.
Reaching out to the fallen times, firestorm rich, you hear the cries.
We look at the creative use of silence. We look at vocals, how to write vocals, how to layer vocals, how to mix them, process them, all that sort of fun stuff. Also global reverb, and of course, loads of other things too, from the conceptual to the technical. Tons of information on how Amidy approaches writing songs, music, tracks, tunes, music, art, all of the above. Let's start off with a story.
So I want to welcome Amidy, who's a really good friend of mine, Nolan. He's actually going to come and hang out with me. We're going to go to my mom's house. We're going to go to DOS Energy in Utah in 2 weeks. We're super stoked. We're going to hang out with Protohype and Hero Bus and everybody. Super stoked for that. So first off, what I want to do is tell a story about this song, and then I want you to tell the story about this song. I want you to tell us about the song, but I want to tell about my my first experience with this, because this was awesome. Me and a really good friend, Brendan Nilsson. Do you want to put a picture of Brendan Nilsson?
Right there. Yeah.
Cool. So me and Brendan Nilsson went out to LA. We went to Icon, and we were sitting in Studio Alpha. Is that right? When you showed it to us?
Chamber, actually.
We were in Chamber. We were sitting in Studio Chamber, and he showed this to us, and it blew me away. It, like, almost brought me to tears. And I remember looking at you and saying, like, Nolan, I believe in you. Like, this is amazing. You remember that? Like, that was a really beautiful moment, actually. And then later on that day, Nolan, Brendan and I, we took out Said the Sky to go to lunch. Said the Sky. And then so we took him out to go to lunch, but on the way back from lunch, Brendan put it on in Nolan's car. And it was actually like this really intense moment, because like at the time, you know, like we're having a good time, we're laughing, we're joking and everything. And at that moment, Trevor, who said this guy, just barely looked down and was texting on his phone, and Brendan put on the song. And, you know, at the very beginning with like the drones or the pads or whatever, it's really, really beautiful. But really, like when that first kick and the sub hits, it's like, holy crap, that's when it hits you and you like really get sucked into the emotion of it. And I remember when that first kick and sub hit, so this guy was just like, he just like looked up, and it was like this look of just like, I can't even fathom what's going on right now. Like, this is beautiful. You know what I mean? And like, I watched his face the entire time, which sounds creepy. Sorry, Trevor. But I watched his face the entire time. And, okay, maybe not the entire time, but I kept looking over at him. I looked at him periodically, okay? And every time I did, he just was so blown away, and he's like, dude, you have to send this to me. Like, this is amazing. So that's my story. Now, if you could, Mr. Amidy, tell us the story behind it, because it's a really beautiful reason why you made this song.
Calling Out is a song about today's world, and it's we have wars going on all the time that we don't really know about, and we don't really care to know because it doesn't affect us. And the people that are in the brunt of these wars that are constantly going on, they're affected by them, and they're trying to call out for our help and ask for us to help them. But because it doesn't affect us, we don't think that we should help. And so we just kind of leave it on the side. So we don't really think that we should go out of our way to go and help. So that's kind of basically the summary of the song right there.
So it's got a vocal in it. How did you, was that your vocal, or did you get someone in for that? Or?
Yeah, that's me singing.
Oh, awesome. I didn't realize.
Thank you. Yeah, so actually it was done really fast. I just kind of grabbed my Bluebird in the hand, and I just recorded it all in pretty much close to one take.
So you're saying is that like you actually, I guess the term is preventative production, right? So you don't like create a song and then go back and create space for it. You create space while you're producing, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? You constantly make a decision a vocal is going to be here. So, I mean, what kind of techniques do you do for that? Do you like leave a specific range open, or do you just not use a lot of elements, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of just go for less elements is key. Because I used to be the guy who's thinking that the more is better. Because it's really, honestly, it's hard to have the imagination that the vocal is going to be there.
Mm.
You want to keep trying and like filling up the spectrum and make it sound as awesome as possible. But then once you get the vocals, you realize that it's just too chaotic.
I see.
I try and make it like pretty darn simple. And then I always know that I can add more after the vocals. So it's like, I'm not stuck with what I have once I record the vocals. I can always edit it and add more.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And do you have pretty much the entire track, or the entire track laid out at that stage, or is it more just like 2 or 3 of the main sections?
Usually with my tracks, I have like the intro, first verse, drop, chorus, and then the second verse to the pre-chorus. And I kind of just like copy and paste it a little bit for just recording purposes, just so I can have like the timeline in my head of like when things are supposed to happen and where they're supposed to be. And then once I get that, then I'll kind of change it and add the actual structure of the song.
Gotcha. When it comes to recording vocals, quite a few people, especially, you know, like you and I, we went to Icon, and so they kind of taught this underneath the table, where it's like when it comes to vocals and recording vocals, you do that in Logic, and then you do your production in Ableton, or at least that's kind of like the rule of thumb. You know what I mean? Did you just do everything in Ableton? Because that's kind of what it's sounding like.
Yeah, for sure. Everything. I export the whole track because it's literally impossible to record with the full session because your computer will just die with
Indeed.
Buffering and latency and all that. So I export the track, put it into a separate session, and yeah, I just kind of go from there. I don't really like Logic that much. I get that people like the whole playlisting thing, but honestly, I feel like there's not that much control when it comes to the playlisting. And also, you have to export all the vocals, multi-tracks from Logic, and then you have to put them into Ableton. So that's just like one extra step that just doesn't need to be there.
That makes sense. Yeah. So just so those of you who don't know what he's talking about, so in Logic, there's what's called a vocal comping function, which basically states like that. Let's say you're recording a 4-bar loop. You can go in and you set that 4-bar loop, and at the end of that loop, it'll go back around, and it will create different takes. And at the end of it, you can basically make a Frankenstein version of it. So you can be like, I want this part from this take, this part from this take, this part from this take. So depending on how good you are, or your style of recording, or singing or rapping or whatever you do, it could be good, it could be not. So like I rap, and so that was a game changer for me. It's awesome. You sing, and you're an amazing singer, so you don't really have a reason to use it. You know what I mean? But for me, it saves hours and hours, even with exporting it and putting back into Ableton and everything. So I'm super stoked for you, because that would make things so much easier. Ableton 10. I hope you guys at Ableton are watching this.
There's a bit on the Ableton forum where you can submit feature requests. That could be a cool thing to submit.
I know what I'm doing every.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have the session view and then the track view like set on separate screens. That'd be awesome.
You've been able to do that for a while now. There's a setting called dual monitor. I think it was either 8.5 or 9 they introduced it. So yeah, you can do that.
Oh man,
moves, Ableton making moves.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yep, cool. I just want to let you know that you have 6,895 emails that you need to respond to.
Crikey.
Like legendary status.
One of them could be from Skrillex, and you would have no idea.
What the heck, Nolan? What if he's trying to get a hold of you? He wants to go out for bagels.
They're all like really emails that like I haven't opened.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. My first observation with this song that I really, really liked is your use of silence. It was amazing, especially in the drop. If we hop over to the drop section and just take a listen just for a second, people will see exactly what I'm talking about because it's amazing.
Speak the right things.
It's amazing.
Yeah, with the drop in the silence, I really feel like silence really kind of makes people think.
I agree.
It just like meditation. It's just kind of like it's like a short little form of meditation in a way, because silence, people are there with their own thoughts, and so they're able to kind of capture what's going on and what they're thinking with the song, and trying to get them to really feel the emotion of and impact of the song.
I completely agree. I remember, just to like make an analogy out of this, I remember when me and my wife were first dating, and what I noticed that really made the date amazing was after I dropped her off and I was just left to my own thoughts to drive home and just think about stuff. You know what I mean? Because like we were together and we were having an amazing time. And then what made that amazing time even more amazing was just like sitting there alone in the quiet, just thinking to myself about it. It was amazing. You know what I mean? And that's what I kind of relate to this, is like you present an idea, it's a dope idea. Now it's like, just think about it just for a second. Bring it back.
Definitely. And it also, from my perspective, it makes everything that's big feel almost bigger because of the contrast. Whereas if you go from something small to big, it will still sound like the big thing will be big, but if you go from like nothing almost to something big, then it becomes like this whole new thing as a result. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like nowadays, like, people don't have a lot of time to just kind of stop and realize their thoughts. They're always on the go, and I guess this is kind of like a song that thinks that they're on the go, but also kind of makes them think at the same time, you know?
Dude, that's crazy. So I'm just barely putting this together. So you put that silence in as like a conscious decision so that people can stop and think about this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because, that's the thing with songs. If they keep going and going, you never really have time to process what's actually happening. And so if you're able to put silence in a song, like say before the verse to the pre-chorus, like if it kind of just like stops and like reverses in or something, like that's just enough silence for the brain to comprehend and respond to what's happening in the song.
That totally makes sense. So just really quick add on, and then I'll pass the torch over to you, Adam. So how do you know where to put silence?
That's a good question.
I'm sure it's an arbitrary answer, like it's going to change, but I guess more so I should ask, how did you know where to put silence in this song?
Oh no, I guess I was just kind of following what I had done for the verse. Here, let me show you what I did for the verse.
Okay.
So I did a lot of bouncing to audio, which I half do, half don't. But I was doing cuts on the 3 every
Like with the snare?
yeah. So if I solo these real quick. But I kind of made it a lot more drastic with the drop, because I wanted to really just like full on sound to nothing. To really create that like distinct impact of change. To kind of be like, whoa, oh, there's silence.
I like that.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I mean, the silence almost sounds like an instrument, almost in a weird way. If you know what I mean, you almost consciously hear it because of the like that contrast between the big and the small. Yeah, really cool.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
The synths and stuff at the beginning. What did you use to create those guys?
On at the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so I actually have my own preset that I made.
Yep.
Here, I'll open it for you guys. I actually call it water boat because it kind of sounds like a boat underwater, like from underwater. You listen to it.
And is that all one preset? It sounds like quite a lot for one preset. That's what.
Yeah, that's all one.
That's awesome.
Water boat.
Plug for cymatics.
Cymatics, hit me up.
Of course, the Atmos noise oscillator. Interesting.
Awesome.
So it's actually just the sub and noise.
That makes sense. So you're taking advantage of a lot of people don't know this, but the noise oscillator in what's called in Serum can actually act as a sampler, so you can actually drag anything you want in there and it can do it. But it looks like this Atmos 18 that you already had it in there, right? You didn't drag that in.
Yeah, it was just one of the things that are the samples that are already in Serum.
So,
Awesome. And it's for those who aren't that familiar with Serum, the really important button is that keyboard button, because I think by default the keyboard button, which is the key tracking button, isn't turned on. So to get the Atmos sound pitching up and down with the keyboard, you need to make sure that keyboard's button is turned on, and then it sounds like an actual oscillator almost. Kind of, I suppose to me, I'm hearing. Well, I think why it sounds really cool is it almost kind of becomes one, even though I suppose the Atmos layer is the character, but then because it moves up and down pitch with the keyboard, it sounds like it's a part of the main layer.
Yeah, it just kind of, it's like, it's simple enough, but it also like has a really nice sound as well. Let's see. Yeah, I did quite a bit of stuff with that. Yeah, I added a little too much movement on the tune, so I always have to move it down.
When I was checking out your effects, right? So you had the compressor on there. That was like the only time I've ever seen a preset in Serum that doesn't have the multiband compressor on it.
Yeah, I don't really use the multiband because it adds a lot of highs.
That makes sense.
So I wanted to kind of be like more of like an organ in a way.
Cool.
So I didn't want to like really take out those lows. So from there, I use a lot of Spire. I love Spire because their leads are really kind of like nicely rounded and full. So we got this right here.
That was from Spire.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I froze all these tracks, so you can't really see the effects on here. But as you can hear, if you're wearing headphones or if you have a stereo monitors or whatever, you'll be able to hear that it's panning from left to right. It kind of just creates a little bit more width in the intro because I believe I have all of the chords and such in the middle, and then the pluck or the lead adds a little bit of width and movement, because that's the thing. A lot of people don't add movement to their songs. Like I have a push 2, and I don't really use the pads, but I use the knobs for automation. The automation, actually using like your real hands creates such like more real movement than you could ever imagine.
That's interesting.
I'll just like record the automation one by one, just like moving the knob.
That's super cool.
So you for the panning, you literally recorded it in manually, did you? Is that what you did?
For the panning, no, but for like filters and stuff, that I feel like that's such like a tricky thing, because like you can automate it, but sometimes it doesn't like really sound like how you want it. So I feel like if you do that manually, it sounds a lot more natural in a sense.
That's interesting. So, because correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you do the exact opposite multiplier? Like you primarily use the pads and don't really use the encoders?
Yeah, I literally, unless I'm making techno, I pretty much never use the encoders along the top. It's just it's basically a keyboard with a few fancy bits along the top.
That's interesting. Oh, that's super cool though. So, question for this lead sound right here, how'd you come up with the melody?
You know what? I just kind of I've been playing piano for a while, and like I've been involved in music for my whole life, and I feel like things just kind of come naturally to me. I don't really like try and like think about it too hard. I feel like some people try and think about it too hard and like try and break it down with theory and all that. I just kind of, as long as it's in key or whatever, as long as it sounds good, I'm down. That's really what it is. Like I'll know the key, and then I'll have an idea of where the note that I want to start at, and I'll just kind of work from there.
That's
like
awesome.
I hear a chord progression, I automatically hear a melody.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then with like the mixing, I just kind of just went for it, and I turned everything off and just kind of started with the vocal and then went from there, track by track by track by track. And even though it took a while, because I kind of kept the song like a little bit more simple in a sense, because it doesn't have hundreds of tracks. Like even though it's probably close to 100, a lot of it's like sound effects and little add-ins, but honestly, there's not a crazy amount of like synths in here. So it was actually kind of easy to mix. Let's see.
Which is awesome
Awesome.
because last week we had Trivecta on, and literally if we would double the tracks that you had now, that doesn't even equal out to the amount of tracks that he had in his consolidated project. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
This is definitely on one of my lower scale tracks of count number of tracks. I would say I'm probably usually closer to Trivecta on my dubstep tracks, but this one, being it like more so to the pop genre, I kind of kept it more simple, like less is more.
I think you mentioned it, but do you to mix it? Do you literally bring all the levels down and then bring them all back up? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I turn everything off. Yeah, like turn it all the way down. I feel like that's where you can get the best mix. I feel like when I ever try and just mix it from where it is, I don't get the best results, because it's kind of, I feel like it's like a restart for your computer. It's like a restart for your ears and your mind. Like you kind of have to redo it all, and it kind of, I don't know how to say it, but I guess it kind of, it's a new start for your ears, I guess. That's the best way I can
like a fresh perspective almost to the what's going on.
That's what I was trying to say. It's like
awesome.
having another person come in and mix for you, but it's you.
Yeah, and you mentioned, well, you bring the vocal up first, so that would certainly be the most logical way for me to approach things. So do you go like vocal, kick, bass, synth, or how do you typically bring it all back up?
I think I do I think I do vocal first, of course, and then I'll do like chord synths, and then I'll work to drums, and then I'll do sound effects, and then I'll just kind of keep filling it in from there. But yeah, it's basically vocals. I want to make sure I get those like nice and pristine before I work on from there.
That's awesome. Question, kind of going back to your melodies and your writing. When you were writing your vocal part, I've heard two different schools of thought where it's like you first write the melody and then you write the lyrics, or you write the lyrics and then write the melody. Which one do you usually do?
Well, I feel like to write the lyrics, you have to have a melody in mind. You have to have timing and melody, because if you're just writing lyrics, you're just kind of writing lyrics without timing and idea. Because that's the thing is, I feel like your best ideas come to you first. And I feel like a lot of people kind of disregard their first ideas and just kind of try and find a better one than that. But usually it's your instinctive idea that's usually the most natural and fits the best, because more people will find it better fitting as well, because it'll just kind of come naturally in their heads and become more catchy in a sense. So what I do is I just bring out my phone, put on voice memos, run through the track, and just kind of sing whatever I hear to my head and just let it come out. And I'll say some words, or it'll be mumbling. So you'll hear like little keywords like fire or like shut the door, or like whatever. And then you'll kind of just work off of those little keywords because they felt natural to you. So why try and fix it and make it different? You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, that little cheesy line.
And how did you layer the vocal or process it? Because it sounded like it was pretty much as good as any vocal, to be honest. So yeah, how did you approach it?
So yeah, I kind of stumbled upon on this track with so of course gotta tune it just a little bit to kind of make it tie with the track a little bit more. I did the typical cut, and then like a few dB of gain reduction. This is just kind of taking off the little top to kind of smoothen it out.
And if I remember right, so you definitely subscribe to the school of thought that says don't use one compressor to compress the crap out of it. Use multiple compressors to do a little bit at a time, right?
Yes. Yeah, that goes with anything, I believe. Like if you're really trying to compress like over 4 dBs, I would say like use 2 at least. I guess it depends on like what you're doing. If you're really trying to go for that smash sound, then use 1, but I usually recommend doing 2 or more if you're really trying to like smooth it out. Like it'll be a lot better and smooth. So yeah, from there I do a little bit of correction. I didn't really do that much. And then to really give that tone that you hear in the vocal, that like warmth and like crispness, I guess, I use Saturn, actually. I use the vinyl saturator, and I threw that on there and I immediately loved it. And I didn't turn it off because I don't know, I don't think people would normally use a saturator on their vocals. Do they? I don't know.
A little bit, but not that much. If they do, it's more of a subtle sort of a like warmth or something. I suppose if you're doing like aggressive vocals, you may kind of distort them to give them a bit of an edge, but that wouldn't be the conventional way to do vocals.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go for kind of like kind of more of like a rock vocal, so I wanted something a little bit more gritty. So that's why I threw on the saturator.
Wait, can we take a listen to it with and without the saturator?
Yeah, of course. All right, there we go. All right, so here's without the saturator.
Reaching out to the fallen times, fire so rich you hear the cries.
All right, here's with saturator.
Reaching out to the fallen times, fire so rich you hear the cries.
Kind of adds like a megaphone effect kind of thing. Then I threw on de-esser because the saturator adds a lot of S's and sibilance. EQ'd it a little bit more because the saturator adds some low ends to it. And let's see, I think that's kind of, oh, well, I guess I'm adding some of this, whatever it is. I don't know what I put on.
That's cool.
But yeah, whatever that stuff is, I don't know.
What's the glitch doing?
Let's see where that is. I think it's a tape stop. Yeah. Yeah, so it kind of like shuts it off real quick instead of just like cutting it off with volume, you know. I think it shows.
You can hear them calling out.
I see.
Yeah. And then I like layering my vocals with a vocoder. It kind of adds a whole new layer to the vocals to like add like body to it, a little bit more presence. It's just like a whole nother nice little layer to kind of add in. I usually just use the chords. That's kind of about it. And you know they're going to fit because they're the chords. So altogether, it sounds.
You can hear them calling out. You can hear them calling out. You can hear them crying out, crying out.
Yeah, so that's my vocals. And then I think I have, so I have a little bit lower. I like always layering with a lower octave. I'll just take the vocal, put it in another track, lower it an octave, and then I believe I have a higher one as well. And then the typical reverse.
And is that with the with the warping? Sorry, to get the octave up and down, or is that using something else?
Yeah. So I just use Complex Pro. I feel like Complex Pro, especially for higher, sounds a lot better because if I.
And before you show us, I just want to make a prediction for your lower voice. Do you use just Complex?
Complex Pro, I believe. Oh, I use tones this time.
You're both wrong. Oh man.
Yeah, I'll kind of switch around between tones and Complex Pro.
Gotcha.
Tones kind of, I don't really know how to like describe the different like.
It's like a grainy sound. That's how I like to describe the tones and texture.
Yeah. So if you hear the difference between Complex, as Wyatt was saying, and then Complex Pro, which I use. Kind of like a little annoying, like a high pitched annoying.
Chipmunk kind of thing.
Yeah. So from there, I love my reverse vocals. I guess that kind of comes from the whole dubstep background of myself, or I feel like anyone does that nowadays. So I just the beginning of actually the first verse, I think I just took that little part right there and I just reversed it. Wow, there we go. And then I think I have some harmony. Or I think they're doubles and they're just really low. So yeah, that's how I did my vocals. They're actually pretty darn simple. These are one of the most simple vocal productions that I've done.
It sounds amazing.
It's so impactful. Like it's so simple that it actually works.
I agree.
Just circling back to the vocals one quick time very quickly. So when you're compressing a vocal, do you have settings that you know work well for your voice, or do you do it differently every time, or kind of how do you approach that side of things?
So let's go over 76. I usually have the attack slow and then the release fast. So it leaves the initial part of the vocal kind of safe and sound, but then it kind of takes over for the middle part and then it releases fast. I don't really compress that much, but I am actually starting to learn otherwise from a superior of mine that I might be compressing more soon. So,
Are you allowed to state who your superior is?
yes, his name is Matthew Steeper. I just got an internship with him, but he's done songwriting for very big artists like but yeah, he actually told me that the guy who made these plugins, that the VU meter isn't really true. And yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And so Matt was actually telling me that he actually compresses around like -5 to -7
Oh wow.
on just 2A, which I would have never thought to compress my vocals that much. But seeing him do that and then hearing his final product, like, you guys have definitely heard his stuff. You probably didn't know it, but you have, and I'm sure I know why. I know you've heard, and that's one of his products.
Which, by the way, fun fact, Matthew Steeper is his name, right?
You know what? I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this.
Oh.
Maybe
We might want to cut that out, though.
about the songs that he's did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
if you could cut that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I know I'm supposed to sign an NDA.
So he wrote all those songs, yeah.
He also wrote the Constitution.
Well, he wrote the vocals for them. He didn't write the actual songs, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm allowed to talk about.
That's okay. We'll err on the safe side.
You're almost certainly not allowed to mention it. Yeah, I'll definitely cut that out.
So yeah, he recommends like pulling down to -7, -5 for compression, which like blew my mind because I never would have thought of that. And then I guess I'm just gonna go on another little tangent here. But he uses a lot of the CLA vocals, and he just like boosts the compressor and some of the other stuff, and like sounds so good. Anyways, off my tangent. We can go back to you guys.
So, if you could go back in time to when you first started this session, and you could like basically coach yourself, what would you say to yourself? What would you say to avoid, or to try different, or to kind of just make the process easier? You know what I mean?
I would first of all like tell myself to just kind of follow my gut and just keep going with the first idea that comes to my mind. I feel like that's, even though like with what I just said with like vocals and stuff, like following the first idea is easy for me with vocals, but with like the production, that can be a little hard. Like sometimes you want to do like a bigger drop or something, and that was kind of like I was questioning myself with this drop. I was changing it all the time because I wasn't sure if people would really dig it, because it's quite different, because the first half of the first drop is actually just like filtered. It's not bright at all. It's low and filtered. And I guess I just like doubted myself a lot, and then I just kind of had to let go and just kind of see what people thought of it and not really care what people think about it. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Just kind of letting things go and Just going with my first feelings.
I like that. I feel like that's something that we all struggle with.
Well, I see you using quite a few return tracks. Are they standard return tracks? Like you always put the reverb on A, always put the delay on B, and so on.
Yeah, so I always have A and B as the reverb and then the delay. But something that I do differently than other people do for their vocal reverbs and delay is I send 100% of the vocal to the send, and then I automate the send volume. So instead of sending just maybe like 20% or however you say 20 to the send, I send all of it. And I feel like that adds a little bit more body, because I feel if you only send a little bit to the actual send, it reacts a little bit different. As you can, like, if I could think of an example, if you put in Ableton delay and you only send, say, 35%, you'll hear the delays, and then one will just keep going, and then it'll stop. So you'll hear like one side or so forth. But if you send all of it, then it'll act normal. So that's kind of what I did with that. And I did the same thing with the delay. And then I always kind of take out the highs and the lows. Usually my songs are kind of more serious, so I try and keep the highs tamed and bring them down. Because if you want a song happier, you bring out the highs and the reverb. If you want a song a little bit serious or more on the sad note, you take out the highs and the reverb. Same with the delay. And then another little tip that I learned from my mentor was using a global reverb. And so literally everything in your mix gets sent to this reverb. So here, I'll just kind of show you how it works. So here's...
and is that a big room reverb or a small room reverb, that one? Or?
Actually, here, I'll show you. It is... in rooms, it's Studio A. That's what I use. I don't touch it. And then I just add the little EQ. I brought in the EQ just a little bit more to add a little bit more impact in the mix. So basically, you send as much as you can until you hear it, and then you back off just a little bit so you don't hear the reverb. It just kind of adds a little bit of vibe, I guess, and it like really feels the mix pretty nice. Maybe we can hear it with it and without it. We'll see if you guys can hear the difference. You can hear them calling out. You can hear them crying out. All right, so that was without it. Let's see if you guys can tell the difference with, sometimes you never know. It could be a placebo effect. We'll never know. Here we go. You can hear them calling out. You can hear them calling out. You can hear them crying out, crying out. I can hear, like, if you had to imagine, like, the hearing spectrum, I feel like it's, like, here. Like, here where I hear it. Like,
I also think that, unfortunately, like the sound that comes through Zoom, it actually monos it out. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Well,
yeah, and I'm trying to figure out a way so it doesn't. So we actually do get stereo. So I'm actually here right here.
Well, unfortunately, so you guys can't really tell too much, but I can hear. So
that's awesome, though.
But yeah, that's a super great way to like kind of finalize your mix. Once you're done mixing, do that. And then I turn it down just a little bit so it's not too much. So I just did like -8. But yeah, I feel like that really kind of like finalizes a mix and adds a little bit more, a little final touches to it, you know?
Was there anything in this track that you would consider technically wrong, but worked in the context of this track? Again, whether it's from a songwriting perspective or a sound design mixing, or
Hmm. Uh, I would say the first drop, having it filtered. That's I feel like that's a pretty kind of wrong thing to do. Here, I'll play it for you again, and I'll show you. It's filtered down all the way to 3K, so it's like it's filtered, but like you can't really tell too much. Like everything is filtered. So these are a little bit higher. The bass is back to 3K.
Things.
And so, yeah, not a lot of people would think that's okay, because normally you want the highs in there and you want it to be super impactful. But I felt because it was so, it's more of an empty track, that I felt like it was already impactful. So I didn't really need that. Let's see, what else? Probably all the silence that I have in the track. My track is probably,
I would say like almost 30% silence, you know?
yeah,
Like a lot.
yeah,
But it
the
works.
vocal over it. But if the vocal is taken out, there's probably about 30% silence in the whole track.
Which is crazy, which is great. You know what I mean? It's so awesome that you pulled it off. You know,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
absolutely. To wrap things up here, what we like to do is just to ask you, and feel free to say no. But would you like us to enter mentor mode and to tell you some of the things that we felt like would be awesome that could improve the track even more?
Yeah, sure.
Totally. So one thing that I just, and then I'll pass the torch off to you, multiplier, to give you a second to think about it. One thing that I noticed that would be super awesome is when you were doing your vocal stacks. So like, for example, how you tune them down and tune them up. Something that I want you to try different. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Do you have the mushroom pusher, infected mushroom plugin? It's called
Manipulator?
Manipulator. Do you have that?
Yeah, I do.
Have you played with the formant shifting on it?
Yes, I actually literally just got Manipulator.
Okay.
So this track is actually kind of old.
Okay.
Like I finished it a couple months ago.
Gotcha.
Here, let me get a manipulator for you. So
Yeah, because just the tone that it has, because we're seeing a lot of this, people what's it called, taking their vocals, pitching them down using Complex Pro or just Complex, and that's happening quite a bit, and it's cool because it's awesome, but because it's happening so much, it's starting to get to the point where it's kind of standard. You know what I mean? It's no longer as special as it was. But Manipulator, for those of you who don't know, traditionally, if you wanted to create a vocal or a double or whatever it is, you had to pitch it down a complete octave or else it gets out of key. Manipulator actually shifts the formant. So the notes the person sings stays the same, but the tone changes. Does that make sense? And so,
yeah, no, I love it. I use it all the time now. It's great for like little ad libs or little background things.
I don't know if there's like copyright stuff with this, but multiplier, could you take a snippet from Skrillex's Red Lips remix?
I think technically I'm allowed to, actually, providing we comment on it. So under fair use. So these are some comments about Skrillex.
And yeah, it's just the part when the girl, it's about, you're going into the build up and the girl is still singing the same notes, but the girl all of a sudden starts sounding deeper and deeper, like a man, kind of a thing. And so that's the effect. Do it. So
yeah. So all right, so let's try it. Here we go. So here's the regular vocal, unpitched.
You can hear them calling out.
All right, and then let's just bring it down like 6.
You can hear them calling out. You can hear them calling out. You can hear them
Yeah, because you're still singing the same notes. It's just changing the tone of your voice. You know what I mean? To me, Manipulator has a little bit higher quality than that of Ableton's just, complex or tones or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. No, I kind of changed over to your process thought of with Manipulator.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's all I got though. Other than that, stupid dope song, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really see anything like bad in the song, to be honest. I mean, the software nerd in me sees the occasional bits that could potentially cause discontinuity clicks, but I mean, to be honest, I couldn't hear any, so I don't even know if it would cause any problems. So stuff like on some of your volume automations, it looks pretty vertical. I must admit, I can't see for
On
sure.
like
So that would be one example. But then also, I think if you scroll down, I saw it elsewhere. The guitar, maybe the track volume. Yeah, you did a nice little slope. So yeah, you did it correctly, quote unquote. So yeah, if you zoom in on the end of the automation on the Omnisphere.
this one.
Yep. So if you zoom in there, so yeah, you did the thing that I didn't realize you did. So yeah, my feedback doesn't even apply. Yeah. So for those who haven't seen that before, if you automate things like volume or filters like vertically, you sometimes get like a weird little click. Not always, but sometimes. So it's just a little thing to look out for. So it kind of looked like you had, but no, you've done the.
I thought I did too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, there's nothing I've really changed on the track. To be honest, I mean, it's really, really cool. I mean, maybe you could argue the reverb on like coming through everything might not be the standard approach, but well, yes, most people probably wouldn't do. I personally really like it. I mean, I oftentimes stick like reverbs on the master because I mean, people used to do it, so maybe it's more of a trendy thing. And it, in my opinion, providing you do it subtly, you get all the benefits of it sounding much nicer through headphones, but then it doesn't completely ruin it coming out through big speakers. If you say cranked it, then putting a reverb like that through everything would kind of make it kind of quite washy through big speakers. But providing you're subtle, it doesn't, to be honest, would cause too many problems.
Yeah, if you kind of think about like the global reverb, as in a sense, like when a band records, like, or when they just record, I don't know if they still like all record together or separately now. But like think of like a big band room. They're all in the same room, so they're all going to have the same reverb tone to them. So it's automatically going to feel glued together. But that's the problem with EDM music, is that they're all in a DAW. They're not in the same room together. So sometimes they don't really feel like they're glued together. So this is kind of like, in a sense, taking that idea and moving it inside the DAW.
I like it.
That's awesome. Other than that, way to go, dude.
I think we're good. Yeah. Awesome.
This is dope. Any final comments? I know we got our questions out, but any final comments for anyone?
No, good.
Thank you guys for having me.
Fantastic. In the door, episode 2 with Wyatt and Amidy. As usual, comment below or send me an email if there's anyone you want to see in future episodes. My name has been Multiplier, and I will catch you guys on the flippity flip.